Welcome to Turner's Talk, the first one of the year. We were going to do a workshop today, but Chuck got called into work at the last minute. It looks like he's got to work 4 Saturdays in a row. I guess they got a couple workers out with COVID. So, and it's a pretty small staff there. So they just worked that poor guy to death. So anyways, we're going to be a little bit more of a structure than we've had in the past. Instead of a free-for-all, I've got some different questions, and I'm kind of waiting for one person to sign on because I'm also going to go through, a lot of people are having problems figuring out how to post on our Facebook page from their Facebook page. And I'm going to go through that real quick a little bit later on to help them out with that. And that's why we have this funny view of me right here, because that's my tablet, and that simulates a phone pretty good. So anyways, I guess the first big question for today is, what are your goals for 2021 in wood turning? Do you have any goals or things that you want to achieve? For me, it's going to be thread chasing, and it's actually 3 things: thread chasing, getting back into segmenting, and doing more work with Halloween, learning more about Halloween and things like that. That's my 3 big ones. And so let's hear from you guys. You got any goals or thoughts for the year?
Turn more, sell more.
Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah, I normally do like 5 craft shows a year, and that pretty much does it for me. But I think, you know, even early on, if any craft shows open up, I'm going to grab them.
Well, it'll be
I'm not worried about keeping up with stock, but I've got enough stock built up now. I could probably do 4 shows in a row.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the, you know, with how they relax things and change things.
We've had several groups around me that have, over the last few months, have tried to have shows, and their success was very, very minimal. They've tried to have them outside and this and that, and it just doesn't. It just hasn't worked out, and so nobody that I know that did any of these did well at all.
I've seen the virtual ones too, where people did them online. Did anybody participate in any of those to see how they work?
I haven't. I know the big one in Detroit that they have every year. They did it online this year, and it was a month long.
The artist market.
Oh, what do they call that? I was looking at getting into that last year, or the year before last. The problem is I had nobody to be with me, and you're there from like 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. for 3 days. You know, so how do you take a potty break and
like
that?
I checked on that some years ago. I think when they first started it, and I wasn't impressed with how they operated it and their setup and all that. So I've never gone back and checked it out.
Yeah, I talked to some wood turners there, or woodworkers, I should say. And one of the guys I thought had the best plan. He only goes to it every other year. That's why he doesn't saturate anything. Then the opposite years he goes elsewhere.
Does that mean he goes to the bathroom every other year?
Yeah.
Yes.
He was in the booth by himself, and I never thought to ask that question. You know, but all his stuff was behind his booth too, where I have a lot of stuff out on a table in front of me. Detroit Urban Craft Fair. That was the name of it. But they went all online this year for a month, and then the different artists would get like a 1-hour domination of their Instagram channel, where it was all that one artist from either their shop or their office and stuff like that. And the reports are from it that they did pretty good. They actually did better than they expected, but it still wasn't like being live with people. You know, the crafters didn't make as much money.
The shows I do, people want to look at the stuff and touch it. And
oh yeah, it's like
they want to buy a pen, they want to write with the pen, and they want to look at the bowls and stuff. And,
yeah, exactly.
But that's the way I am. So.
Well, I've noticed that when I do my craft shows, you know, I'll have, especially the ladies, they pick up a bowl, they go, that feels nice, and that's really lightweight and stuff like that. Yeah. You know, they want to feel it. So
Yeah, our wood turnings are, wood is a sensual material. It needs to be felt.
Yeah.
I think that is a
Right.
huge selling point. And
Yeah.
it's
And
not
then
being
with
able to,
my pens, I wouldn't buy a pen if I didn't write with it first.
right.
Right.
You know, it's really that simple.
Well, and having somebody, I mean, I shape plates and stuff the way I do because they're pleasing when people pick them up.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
that tactile connection to the piece it can be a big help in selling something.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Is that the OG shape that you're talking about?
Yeah, well, and one of the things I like to do is I like to put a little, I like to put a little kind of a lip under the rim.
Mm-hmm.
So let me see if I can draw it out here.
Let me highlight you real quick.
So this little bit here, okay, this little bit here. I mean, it's a slight bead or whatever, and I just, I quickly did that out or whatever. But it's like, if you've got a little sort of a thing like that under the rim of a plate, then when somebody picks it up, they can, there's a feel to that. You feel, and then they'll turn over and look at it. And if I've done a nice job on the bottom, which I work at, then, it kind of sells itself. So,
Okay.
yeah,
It's almost kind of like a handle.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's, I'll look in a minute to see if I've got some, I'm sure
Okay.
I've got plates sitting around that I could show that on, but it's just, it helps. I mean, it's something that they can feel when they pick up. And I experimented with a bunch of different designs when I was first starting to do platters and plates. And, I was like, oh, this feels cool, So that's what I do now. And it, I think it helps sell. What do you got there, Robbie? Ian. Oops,
Like that, Matt?
spot him.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
very
that's
good. I like
decent.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll find it. When we come back, I'll go hunt for it here in a minute when the conversation moves on, and I'll show you all in a minute. But I've got some of these here too. So yeah, hi Ian.
Okay. So I guess that gets us back to the question: does anybody have any goals for this year in turning?
No, just keep turning and try a few new things. That's all.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what, but I want to do a little more hollowing. I've done pretty good when I hollow stuff and sell it. It sells quite fast.
Yeah.
And also the stuff I color, dye, sells very fast.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to do a little more of that. And I think I really want to try getting into a little more wood burning. And get
Well, Jeff,
that's
little
something
better
I've
at
never
that.
attempted.
Jeff, hold on to your horses. It's coming. Bruce and Matt and I are talking about maybe me doing a demo. Don't explode.
Well, I look forward to it.
Well, I already have kind of a idea, maybe, that
Okay.
I'm not putting out yet. Bruce and I and Matt have been talking about it.
Okay. Well, I promise not to make faces at you when you do it.
And you just lost my video permanently because I think it's a bandwidth problem.
Okay.
If somebody just came in, I got bounced. My computer.
Probably not paying the bill problem is what it is.
That's my wife.
Probably.
Do you have?
Because I know Paul Zirkle.
You get yours from cable?
No, it's from the internet.
No, I mean the internet. Does it come in on like your cable, or is it like AT&T, where it's
AT&T. AT&T.
Oh, okay.
They're gonna live with you forever.
So
I don't do this. My wife does it, so I don't. Whatever it is, it is.
So since we're talking about Halloween, this is going to be the next piece I do. This is a piece of choke cherry that I got from Steve Rohr, and it sat in my shop for a year or so. Got this big crack in it, so I filled it in with resin. And my plan is to make a traditional vase shape out of it, kind of with a wing coming out the top, and probably a lip underneath. And so that's going to be probably my first hollow form turning of the year.
All right.
And I sold 2 hollow forms late last year, and they were nothing fancy, but my wife's cousin in Hawaii, he's got a whole shelf or whole bookcase in his office of all my work, all kinds of stuff that I made.
And why don't you have them send some Milo here?
Some what?
Milo.
I haven't gotten any Milo from him yet.
Well, why don't you call him up and ask him?
Well, we were talking about it because when I left, he was going to get some and package it up and send it to me, and he hasn't done that yet. And I think part of that is, you know, he's in the tourist business. You know, he's a dive instructor. He is captain of a charter large ship that takes people out on cruises and stuff like that. And he's had no income since April of last year. So they're living off his wife's income, which is she's a dental hygienist, so they don't make a ton of money. So he's getting. Last time I talked to him about a week ago, he got word that they could be opening up again in the next month. So, but yeah, he was actually associated with a resort there, and it's they call it the Resort to the Stars. So it's like when we were down there in 2013 visiting him. You know, we went out on the ship, and he said a week ago he had Joe Walsh and his family on the ship with him. And, you know, he said he's had all the rockers, you know, and so, you know, he gets to meet all the celebrities and stuff. He had George Clooney a couple of years before that and his wife. And,
Fun.
you know, nobody's going to the islands. Nobody can go to the islands.
I can show the slip I was talking about earlier if y'all want to see it.
Sure.
So this is a maple platter, okay,
Oh, beautiful.
and it's got the OG on the bottom, but this under here,
Yep.
Yeah.
that's what I'm talking about. So
Yep.
when you grab it, there's a sort of an indentation underneath here, and you can
Yep.
you know, you can feel it that way. So
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's pretty much that's kind of my go-to. Yeah, that's kind of my go-to grip on a platter. I like that.
Matt,
yes, sir.
do you like it? Do you like it?
Yes, Paul, I do. It's a little heavy.
That white oak I just sent you yesterday
Yeah.
is a little heavy.
Yes, I imagine it is. White oak is seriously dense. Do we decide if it actually was white oak?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, what I did is I got some shavings, some fresh shavings, and it did have a little smell of oak.
I got you. Okay. You want to show people that? Do you have it handy? We got no video for you, Paul.
I don't know how to do it off my, I can send it to, I don't know how to do this, Matt.
All right.
It's in my phone.
The way I do it is next to my video camera, I can choose a source to turn it on and off. So I don't know what you're doing it on, but that's how we do it. That's how a lot
You asking me how to do a computer and stuff?
No, you're on your phone.
No, I'm on my computer.
Oh, you are.
On my
Yeah.
computer, on my app on my computer, in the lower left of my screen, there's a little camera.
Yeah. And if you don't have that, Paul, move your cursor and it'll come up on the bottom.
Something, or you can put it on my phone.
You said you were
No,
on
I
your
don't know.
computer. You were on your computer.
Yeah, but my pictures are on my phone.
Oh, you would have to sign into the Zoom meeting with your phone.
Yeah, I can cheat and show people that. That's on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, give me a second, and I'll show that to people.
Now, white oak is an open grain wood, isn't it?
Not as open as red oak is.
Okay.
And then you have the other one I sent you yesterday with that the platter out of the ambrosia maple.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got some bottle stopper blanks that are white oak, and I was amazed at how heavy they were.
I have 2.5 logs on the side of the garage.
I've got several pieces of several trees of white oak in the hood, in my little area of the hood, and I don't know, 3 years ago, one of those storms dropped one into my neighbor's yard across the street, and a bunch of us got together to try and clean it up, and I went through like 3 chainsaw blades in a matter of an hour just trying to cut that white oak up.
Wow.
That stuff is like iron.
Yeah, it is. It's solid.
I was sharpening every like 2 minutes. I was resharpening.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, I actually, when I bought my chainsaw right before Christmas, I bought another chain with it too, just in case, because I've had a couple logs now that I've gotten from people that when I go to turn them, you know, they've had, one of them had an 8-penny nail in it, 6 inches long. And of course, you know, I'm using my my Pinnacle Cryo bowl gouge, the most expensive gouge that I've got, and it just tore it up. You know?
Let me tell you about the time I tried to turn quartz.
Turn
Yeah, I would
quartz?
expect
Wow.
that.
This was when I was first starting out, and I was making magic wands, you know, like you do.
Yeah.
And you know, I thought, oh, you know, these people will buy wands if I stick quartz in the end and I can turn it. So I put it on there, and I had a little quartz crystal, and I started turning it, and I was using Dennis Montville's tool, you know, with the big bit. And I was like, boy, this doesn't make any difference. And I looked at my bit, and the bit was all chewed up, and I was like, dang, I need to resharpen
Really?
this.
Because that's a metalworking bit.
Yeah,
Did
well,
did you find them?
what's that? Yeah, I did. Yeah, I'm going to spotlight my video.
You're talking this bit.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. Yep. That's
He makes
so
gorgeous handles.
Spotlight, and let me do. I don't seem to have a share screen capability. I guess I'm going to remove. Jeff, can you make a share screen possible? Let me see if I can do that.
You want me to share my screen?
No, I don't have a share screen. Oh no, there it is. Hang on. Share
I was going to say
screen.
you should have it. Your co-host.
I do. All right, this is Paul's piece. This is Paul's
Yes.
white oak piece.
I love it.
Yeah, I think it's very nice.
Now,
Very nice.
Paul, on that pith there, are you gonna fill that in or anything? Those cracks?
I'm leaving it like it is.
Okay.
That
Cool.
piece is finished.
Okay.
All I have to do is buff it.
Very nice.
And you're using the Beal system to buff it?
Oh yeah.
Is it
But
hard
that
to
thing
buff? Is it hard to buff something that big with the Beal system?
No.
Well, yes
have
and
to-
no.
you have
If
to
you've
hold
got the
it really,
Beal
really
system
hard.
that has the 3 wheels on a mandrel,
Right. Yeah. So
that's what I started out with. So I ended up, when I was down at the Ohio Symposium, I bought the extender for the spindle, and I just made inserts for the wheels and bolts and everything, so I could just spin it right on the end of it. And if I have to, if the bowl's big enough, I turn my headstock 45 degrees.
No, I have the 3520B, so I just have the single wheels. I don't have it at 3 on a thingy,
Uh-huh.
Okay.
and I just buff away.
Well, I use the 3 wheels, and sometimes, especially if the piece is fairly large, it's difficult to get it in there on the wheels, and not. And I've thrown a piece or two learning how to do that system. So
Yeah, I just got one for Christmas. I haven't used it yet, but I did see online where someone kind of modified it where you could just, even with the 3-wheel mandrel, they were able just to modify it where they could mount 1 wheel at a time. It seemed like a good idea.
Well, I was actually doing that with my 3 wheels. I basically took 2 of the wheels off, repositioned the spacers so that the 1 wheel was in the center. The problem you have with that is you've got the mandrel on each side, and it's very easy to touch that up there with your bowl if you're not careful, or worse yet, your knuckle.
Yeah.
Oh, I know that.
That's called texturing.
And dyeing too, a little bit of red dye in there.
Yeah.
For the inside of the bowls, you use the round Beal bust, and they work fine.
Yeah,
That was my next question. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have the 3-in-1, and I went to the hardware store and bought that just an extra 1.5 inch pipe, that PVC, and cut the length. So when I'm buffing my bowls, I take off the wax wheel, and I just have the AAA and the white diamond and change the spacing so that there's about 6 or 7 inches between each one, and I'm able to do the outside just fine. Then I take that off, put the the extension in that goes for running the round buffs, and I do the inside of the bowl that way.
Okay. Holdfast actually makes a spindle adapter for buffing, which is just like the deal. And so I got that down in Ohio, and then I took my wheels off the mandrel. I cut a piece of dowel that fit in the wheel itself, just a little bit narrower than the wheel, then a bolt and a nut and a couple washers, and it works great. It just, I just spin it on. It's easier when it's on the lathe.
Yeah, you had to fill up that 3/4 inch hole though.
Yeah, yeah. So I put that dowel in there, and I made I cut it just a eighth of an inch thinner than the wheel itself, so it could compress. So when it's on, you know, I'm ready to go, and I got all that room to work with all the way around it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I think that elm bowl that I made that was 14 inches, I actually swung the headstock out 45 degrees, and that made a lot of difference.
That one that you just saw is 14.5.
14.5. Yep.
But I just do the one wheel at a time, and I'll save up my buffing till I have like 10 pieces,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll just do all the red diamond, the red, and then I'll do the white diamond, and then I'll do the wax. I'll just fly right through them.
Yeah.
When you're doing a buffed finish, do you put anything on the wood before, or you just buff the sanded finish?
I actually do. I use my Axe sanding paste and polishing paste, and then when I'm finished, I go through and buff it, and it really makes a big difference, because I think the sanding and the polishing paste really helps to seal the grain.
Yeah. And then do you put anything on it post buffing? Any type of wax?
No, buffing is a.
Well, no, because
buffing is
the
last
final
step.
weel is carnauba wax.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right.
Now, I know some people will go another step and put Renaissance wax on, the microcrystalline, because that's supposed to help stop with fingerprints and stuff. But I've never seen a lot of fingerprints on my bowls, even after they've been touched a lot by people.
The carnauba is a good deterrent to the fingerprints and stuff. Yeah, I buff my finishes. I'll have anywhere from 8 to 14 coats of polyurethane or lacquer, and then my final step is to go through the buffing. So, you don't want to put too much pressure or heat it up too much when you're doing that, because you'll start to damage the finish. But,
right.
You're doing a light, you're going through all 3 steps and doing the light buff, and you're done with whatever finish you're doing.
Now,
I found when I'm doing the poly,
bottle stuff. Oh, go ahead, Paul.
I found when you're doing the poly, if you start heating it up, it's just going to melt.
Right.
But lacquer is great. Lacquer, you can just, go whatever. But I've even gone so far as to take bare wood and just use the red and buff the hell out of it, and I get a beautiful finish without putting anything else on it.
Yeah.
Hey guys, this is what I use. I think Jeff was demonstrating something the same. I used to have the long one too with the 3 wheels, but as everybody is saying, once you start turning it, it's gonna hit on the side and fly off and all that. So I just got this, and what I did in the back, I made a fender washer, which is a big washer, and it sits on top of here. And once you screw it in, it's gonna be there, permanent. And that's what I use. Yeah. But to tell you the truth, I rarely buff anything that I turn. It's the way that comes out of the finish, that's the way they stay. And I haven't used any of these buffing wheels in a long time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you, Alf. I've never, ever buffed a bowl or anything.
Yeah.
Might have had 10 coats of nitrocellulose lacquer on it, or even a car lacquer.
In fact, I'm just finishing this. I just gave it 3 coats this morning of lacquer. Actually, it's a matte lacquer spray, and this is I did a Celtic knot on the top. The bottom is wow. The light is really bad here.
Nice work on the shading, Alfred. Good to see.
Oh, thank you. And the bottom, what I did is it's undercut here. I really haven't even finished the inside yet, but this is walnut. It's really a nice piece of walnut.
Beautiful. Is that a rattle can lacquer, or do you use
Yeah, this is what I use.
Oh, not an airbrush or anything. Oh,
this is what I use.
Huh.
What is that?
Mohawk.
It's Mohawk.
Mohawk I found is the best, and actually this is flat. I use flat or matte, and the reason why I use that is because it doesn't give you any orange peel, and you can look at it. It's the way it comes out of the can. I use multiple coats, but very, very light. I put it light, I keep it about 14 inches away, and let the spray just fall on it. I don't push it, and I don't build it thick. But I build the thickness by applying more coats than less coats. And
the Mohawk is pre-catalyzed lacquer. It's automotive lacquer. So you got to, if you're using that, you got to make sure you've got good ventilation. Just FYI.
Yeah. And so this is something I'm just finishing now. So since we're here, I'm going to show you. I just finished. Give me a second.
Yeah, I've painted a few cars before, and with the catalyzed 2-part paints, and they have those, the isocyanates in it, which are not good. Got to have very good respirator.
Yeah, you got to be real careful about the fumes for those.
Yeah, this is something I just finished.
Oh wow!
So there's a story behind this. I was doing this, started doing this, and a friend of mine sends a picture on Facebook to me, and he said, "Alfred, look at this." I said, "What are the chances? I'm making something like that." And he sent me a picture of it. So the inside is black, and I just finished this yesterday.
It's kind of sexy looking.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
So,
it was kind of a challenge to get the zip in there and stay there, and especially at the top here.
Yeah.
To have it turn, because it has to turn 90 degrees to be up. And then to meet here, right in the middle, I had to cut it so that they meet without, seeing where they're meeting.
Is that epoxied in then, the zipper? Or?
No, I actually put CA.
CA.
Yeah, I was gonna put epoxy, but epoxy is a bit thick, and I was afraid I won't be able to hide the epoxy.
Yeah.
So what I did, I started from the bottom, and I did this in one shot. I put some CA, and then I taped it every so often and left it like that. Once this dried good, I didn't use any activator or anything because I didn't want it to ruin the paint. And then I did this side the same way, and then this side the same way. And after it finished, then I did this.
Wow, very cool.
It was kind of a longer process, but.
What is the paint you used?
This is acrylic.
Acrylic?
This is acrylic, and I airbrushed it.
Okay.
I used that Createx, and I got quite a few coats there. Mm-hmm. But again, this is sprayed, finished with that Mohawk, and I do not do anything to my finishing. This is the way it comes out with Ken.
Nice.
But the importance of finishing is not the finishing, is the preparation for the finishing.
Right. Yeah. So,
well,
95% is prep.
Realistically, the finishing is your sanding.
The finishing, yeah. The spray you're putting on is actually protecting the wood.
Yeah.
So, and because it's clear and everything, the way the wood is gonna look, color, and that's the way it's gonna look after it's finished, after the spraying, you know.
Can you go through your finishing process?
Well, really, there is no secret. It's sanding. Sanding is very important. Yeah. A lot of people, I think, they hurry through the sanding, especially going from one grit to the other. When I sand something, what I start is, after I do all the turning on it, then I look at the piece. If I see any ridges, I'm gonna start with a rougher sandpaper than what I think will do the job. So what I want to do is, I might start with 120 grit. So I start with 120 and make sure after it's all sanded that I see one kind of grit, one kind of scratch. So all the scratches will be all the same. Then I go to the next one, which is 180, 220, 320 and 400, I stop there. And once I blow it off, and then I start putting the finishing, whether it's paint or whether it's acrylic or whether it's polyurethane. And I build my finishing, and I usually sand before the last coat. So I build a thickness by, you know, if it's lacquer, you have to put more coats than poly, because poly is a bit thicker. And so I might put, you know, 8 or 10 coats of lacquer. Then I usually sand it with 1,000 grit, very, very lightly, okay? And spray it one final coat, and that's it.
Wow.
No buffing. I don't ever buff anything.
Okay.
I used to when I started, but now I don't buff anything.
So you're saying I should return my Beal system?
No, keep it.
I haven't opened it up yet.
Well, I think you should at least give it a try and see how you like it.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
mean,
everything
on
else in
certain
terms of you're always
stuff,
trying something new.
Yeah.
yeah. Even for my high gloss finishing, I just use the high gloss poly or high gloss, you know, lacquer. I do not. I think you get a better finish or a better sheen by straight out of the can instead of buffing it.
Interesting.
I see a lot of people online when I watch YouTube also, when they're doing lacquer and spray on poly, you know, they try to do everything in 1 or 2 steps where they put it on real heavy. And, you know, that just creates problems.
Yeah, well, that's the worst thing you can do. Well, there is a lot of factors. There's a factor of humidity.
Yeah.
There's a factor of heat. You know, like polyurethane needs a warmer temperature because it needs to settle down. Lacquer dries a lot faster. Okay. So temperature, yeah, as long as it's above 60, you're kind of okay. Mm-hmm. But with poly needs to settle down. In fact, my shop here is heated, so I just put it on and get out of here. And with lacquer, I can come back in 15, 20 minutes and give another coat, no problem.
Yeah.
But with poly, you know, you have to leave it at least overnight. And one other thing is dust is very important. I usually do my polys early in the morning when I have new, clean, fresh clothes on me and no dust, you know, my clothes. I spray and get out of here. I don't spray after I've just, you know, finished turning or anything, because there's all this dust flying in the air around here.
Yeah.
Is your shop attached to your house, or?
Yes.
It's like in a garage, or is it?
Yeah, he has a heated garage.
This is my shop. It used to be it used to be a side entrance garage, and you know, then when I got my vehicles, then I built another garage at the end of the driveway.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so.
That looked like maybe you're in a basement. I was thinking, man.
No, and that's my heat up there.
Are you doing that with the spraying in your house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
cool.
that heater is enclosed. There is not an open flame in it. That's why I use that one. So you know, if there is any fumes or anything like that in here, it's not going to affect it.
Yeah, that's nice. Nice setup.
Yeah.
I bought a portable greenhouse. It's about 5 feet by 5 foot by 6 foot tall. Has shelves in it.
Mm-hmm.
Sealed the whole thing with painter's plastic, and put a duct with a duct fan in it out through one of the windows, and it's in this little room in my basement, and I finish stuff in there. So I'm with Alfred. I don't finish stuff in the shop.
Yeah.
Too much dust.
It makes sense. Yeah, it makes total sense. Yep.
Hey guys, this is how I spray. This is my setup. I have a laser Susan here. You know, I just cut my can and I spray it and get out of here and leave it.
Yeah.
That's all I do. And if I have like a vase like this, I usually put a broomstick in it on a clamp and still on the laser Susan here, and it turns and take it out of here and leave it like that. But the most important thing I found out with getting a good finish is the preparation. Now look at this. There's no orange peel or anything on it. The inside has not been done yet. But if you feel it, it's as smooth as the outside. That is the most important part of the finishing, right? It's preparation.
Right. Oh, it's beautiful work.
Yeah, beautiful.
Would you put tung oil on something, or that before, or Danish oil finish on something before you put the lacquer on? I'm sorry.
I didn't get that. Sorry. Okay. I think my volume is low.
Would you put, say, Danish oil finish on something before you put the lacquer on, or?
No, I don't do.
Don't put anything on it.
It's not a good idea to mix oil and lacquer. Oil and poly is okay, but oil and lacquer don't like each other.
Okay.
I'll argue with you on that one.
Yeah. Well, you can do it as long as it gets dry. Okay.
That's the whole secret. In fact, we quite often use Danish oil.
Yes.
As a undercoat to slightly darken the timber.
Yes.
Bring it up a tone or two.
Yes.
And as long as you leave it for, well, we leave it for 36 hours absolute minimum before we put a lacquer coat over the top of it.
Yes.
I tried to lacquer Cocobolo once. That was a bad idea.
You know, if you're going to lacquer any oily timber like teak, Cocobolo, or any of those, it pays to give them a good wipe down with thinners first, and then put your coat on, so that it gets a chance to dry before the oils come out into the timber.
Yeah. I personally don't see the reason of putting oil on Cocobolo, because Cocobolo is already full of oil in itself. So if you use thinner or something else to try and get the oil out of it and then reapply of it, I think you're just, I don't know.
I was talking about putting lacquer over Cocobolo or teak or something like that. You've got to get the initial oil off the outside of it, and then put your lacquer over, so that the lacquer has a chance to dry before the oil gets back up there again to peel it off.
Exactly. Yeah, I found that out too.
Yeah, don't ask me how I know.
Yeah.
So the lacquer would give enough beauty to the grain anyway.
Sorry, what was that?
The lacquer would kind of bring out the beauty of the grain anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, anything does, you know, as any oil, lacquer, poly, it's gonna darken and it's gonna give you a bit of chatoyance in the wood.
Okay.
But you know, even if you just put water or DNA, it's gonna give you a bit more chatoyance in the wood. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Lacquer.
I actually saw. I think it was Carl Jacobson. He likes to, when he does his sanding, he likes to use some sort of lubricant, and it used to be orange oil. And now he's using more of a polish, not a polishing paste, but it's more beeswax and mineral oil mixture that he uses. And that just keeps all the sanding dust down and everything like that. And he gets a beautiful finish doing that.
I think he uses butcher block oil sometimes, or
yeah, I've seen that. That was something he just recently did. Yeah. Yeah,
I've been using that for a while because you know, people were saying we make sanding waxes, and this is what we put in them. And I looked at the ingredients on butcher block oil. And I said, it's all in there. Why do I have to spend the time to make it? So
right, yeah. So
I guess one of the good ideas on that is that when you're using that mineral oil with the sanding, it's going to create a slurry, and it's going to fill up the pores of the wood at the same time.
Yeah.
So you have open grain wood, it will help you there. Again, if you buff it really good after, you know, wipe it down, it's gonna take most of that slurry off and use that as a base for your finishing.
That's when I use it, is when I have some wood that I just cannot get a good smooth surface on, whether it's grainy or not, just, you know, it might be punky or whatever, and I can't get a real good smooth surface. When I sand with the butcher block oil, it tends to fill up the openings, you know, whether it's tear out or open grain or whatever, and then it will dry enough that you can put a finish over it. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't cause a problem with the finish. So
yeah.
Well, I quite often wet sand with Danish oil, but the thing is, you've got to keep it wet. And Danish oil, if you get too much heat into it, of course, it goes sticky and starts drying out. But you've got to virtually keep it saturated in Danish oil. And it does a great job of filling up any loose pores or anything like that.
yeah, I think you get a really good effect with Danish oil on oak. If you wet sand it after the first coat of it, you know, put Danish oil on and then come back and wet sand the second coat of Danish oil, maybe even a third coat. You get a real good smooth surface, and it takes out that open grain oak.
Could you bring me the coffee pot, please?
Yeah. You were talking about goals before, Jeff.
Yeah.
I've got one goal this year. Oh,
Okay.
I've got a couple. Actually, one is to make money.
Always
the other is that I came into possession the other day of a burl. Well, I came into possession of about 10 burls actually that are nearly a metre across, and one is 1400 across. And I want to turn, just for the hell of it, a metre bowl, just for the heck of it.
What kind of bowl?
Meter long, a meter diameter.
Red gum.
39 inches diameter.
Okay.
Red gum bowl, a metre in diameter, which is
39 inches.
40 inches close to it.
Yeah, 40 inches in diameter.
Oh, wow. Well, and gum is just a gorgeous wood in the first place, much less have it be burl.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I got purely by accident, I got a hold of some red gum pen blanks a couple years ago, and I was just blown away because they looked like nothing. It just wasn't impressive at all until I turned it and put a finish on it, and it just blew me away.
Yeah, well, I'll make you really sick. There were 15 burls. The smallest one was 700 in diameter.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I've got a notebook full of ideas. I have a notebook that when I get something, I see something, and something strikes me, I write it down. So I've got a notebook full of ideas that I haven't realized in the shop. So one of my primary goals is to get some of those ideas done.
Yeah. Well, you know, like I said, I wanted to get back into segmenting, and one of the things with segmenting that stopped me was, number one, I was trying to keep up with the shows I was doing, keep the stock going. But I have a old 1986 Craftsman contractor saw, and it's a great saw. You know, it was built in the U.S., cast iron wings on the table, and but the back of the blade was about a 64th of an inch out of alignment with the miter.
Oh, geez.
And boy, that made a big difference when you're cutting segments, especially if you're cutting, you know, 16 or more segments. And I finally took the time a few weeks ago to unbolt everything underneath and get that all lined up. So it's just dead on center now. And while I was at it, besides doing that, I also added dust collection to the saw, which it didn't have before, which really made a big difference in my shop. So I'm going to get back into it. I've got I just blew the dust off my wedgie sled, and I'm still going back and forth. You know, I've got to make an urn for my dog that passed away right before the new year, and I'm going back and forth between whether I want to do a traditional, you know, log or do a segmented, and I'm kind of going back and forth, and I'm kind of letting my son kind of decide on that. You know, he wants to make sure that Avery is taken care of and looks great for eternity. So, you know, so I can go either way. But that's the other thing too, is I'm going to be working more on urns. That's why I want to get back into Halloween more too. I still have to make an urn for my mother, and I've got a couple friends that want urns for their pets. So, you know, a couple different projects will be going on.
Hey, Jeff, talking about urns, I did a dog urn for my niece, and you know, I had it threaded and all that, but
yeah,
then I took it and I laser burned. I didn't do it myself, but I took it somewhere, and they laser burned a dog on it, and underneath there were 2 paws laser burnt on it with the name of the dog underneath that.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, that was really, really nice.
Yeah.
I found a laser burn place where they can do, you know, 5 axes, you know, all the axes going around.
Yeah.
So because it's round.
Well, if you had a good picture of the dog itself too.
Yes, yes.
That would be a great thing.
Yes. So yeah, she really enjoyed that.
Nice. Nice. Hey, I got another question. This is the immortal question to wood turners and everything. And I've actually seen guys get in arguments about this. So no arguing today, but here's the question. Mortise or tenon?
Both.
No fighting. No fighting.
Both. Both.
Both? Yeah.
Are we doing bowls, or are we talking about woodworking in general?
Well, let's go with bowls.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
that
different.
seems to be where all the argument comes in at.
Okay, my idea on tenons or mortise is, if I'm doing a platter, I'm usually go with a mortise. The reason is because usually a platter is going to be either standing on a table or sideboard or whatever, or hanging on a wall. If I'm doing a bowl, it can go either or. It can have either a mortise, it can be a bigger bowl, and if it goes up rapidly instead of going out too much, if it's sitting on itself, what we call sitting on itself, you usually want to put a tenon so that you elevate it off the table. Because if you have a mortise without a tenon, it's going to sit like a squatting on itself. Now, if you have a bowl that starts going up rapidly instead of going up like that, it goes up with vertical walls, then you might not need a tenon, okay? But for platters, I always went with a mortise, because if you look at the side view, it's gonna look a lot nicer with a mortise where you don't see the tenon jutting out.
And on a platter, you're starting out with a thinner piece of wood too.
That's an excellent point. This piece here, this stock starts off that thick. It's only a little thicker than this.
Yeah.
Right.
So I start off with a mortise, and then I do something at the end, right, inside the mortise, so it doesn't look like a mortise. But if it's this thin, and you're making a bowl or a platter like that, you know, from a stock like this, then a mortise makes perfect sense.
Okay.
I would argue. I would argue that if the bowl is under about 7 inches in diameter, it's got to be a tenon, because the mortise is just too big for the bowl, because it makes the foot too big. Because unless you got some really small jaws that you're using to make your mortise.
I find this rather interesting, actually. That's why I'm not saying anything at the moment.
I think it depends. I mean, I've turned 14, 16-inch platters where I used a mortise.
That's fine. That's bigger than 7 inches.
Right. But I've also turned, this is about 6.5, 7 inches. Okay. It's not that big. And I used a mortise on it also. Okay.
So it's not only a design or an art issue, but is there also the effectiveness of how you're holding the piece of wood that comes into that decision as well? You know,
I think it does. Now, I use tenons a lot. Now, tenons I never leave behind. I always cut them off. So I got to make sure my bottom is, the right thickness and everything. But I have found, I've experimented with tenons and mortises, and especially with green wood. I found that when I've tried mortises, because it was green, it lost its hold. It expanded it. Whereas with a tenon, it compressed it and it held it better. That's just been my personal experience. I use mostly tenons myself.
I use mostly tenons
any
also.
bowl that I turn.
I use
I've
mostly
not done a
tenons.
platter. I will probably, you know, when I do start doing platters, I will probably use a mortise simply because it's a thinner piece of wood.
I use mostly tenons also, but one of the things that, you know, and I do what Alfred and Phil were talking about, you know, I like having the bowl or the piece elevated off of the table, even if it's a platter. You know, you can do a little pedestal on the bottom. So using a tenon at that point makes sense if you've got the wood. But I have broken out mortises too, you know, on a soft piece of box elder, say.
Right.
So, you know, it's, you know, I think there's a couple factors involved. If I've got thin stock, I'm usually choosing a mortise. If I've got extra wood and I want to elevate whatever it is off the table, then I'm using a tenon. If I've got hardwood, then a mortise and a tenon will both work well. But if the wood is softer, I have more success with tenons than I do with mortises because I can tear out through the, even if I leave it thick, it can tear out or warp it like you were saying. So
yeah, you know, I've got some catalpa here I would never consider putting a mortise in. Never.
Last piece of catalpa I did, mortise.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, this is an example of what I was talking about. A platter with a mortise, and what I did with this one, you know, as we know, we always leave a bit here to support that when you're expanding, it doesn't blow up. And then I reshaped it after. But when it's hanging, you know, you're not gonna see that tenon jutting out. To me, it's an eyesore. And you don't really need a very deep mortise here too.
Right.
Usually even 1/8 to a maximum of 3/16 is more than enough to hold. Because you have to be conscious that what you have back there, and when you're turning the front, you always have your center, you know, as a support, and you're taking light cuts, you know. That's the way I do it. And sometimes I even turn this in. This one I didn't have enough because it's very shallow, but I usually turn it in, and this here is not flat. It actually mimics the outside. It's rounded like that. And I usually break this here so that it flows into the wood. So that would be a platter. Then you come to a bowl. This is what I was explaining. You know, when you have elevation, look how small that is underneath. It's only there for decoration, really. There is no tenon there. I took it all off. I just left that little bit and rounded it.
Right.
Just to give it kind of a design so it won't be just going into the table straight like that. So,
yeah.
This is, by the way, this is a bowl out of a, what is it? Bowl out of a plank of wood.
A bowl out of board?
Yes.
Yeah.
A bowl out of a board. That's what this is.
So did you cut the board up on your bandsaw, or did you use?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it on the bandsaw at 45 degrees.
Okay.
And you know, and then you start with the bottom one, you turn it upside down, and all of them you turn upside down.
Yeah.
And then I made a glue block for here. So, and then I started turning it. Here again, because it's so thin, you don't turn all the way in. You just turn, let's say, 1.5 inches. You do the outside. And then on the inside, you do 1.5 inches and finish, and you never go back to it. Because by the time you're down here, you're gonna start getting a lot of cheddar, even if you get a good cut, but the tool is gonna start bouncing unless you really, really float your gouge there. And, you know, that's the way I did this one.
Yeah. Okay, great, thank you. Something else I want to play with is a board. Now, we had a member post on our Facebook page today. He was making a segmented bowl with a solid wood bottom, and he was asking the question why his tenon broke off. Now,
I answered that.
You did? Okay. 'Cause
Yeah.
I didn't get when I looked at it, there was no answers to it yet. I see there's answers now.
Yeah.
And my first thought was, I was wondering how much force he was putting into, because some people are really heavy-handed with their gouges.
Well, I answered that, and what I said, let me get a chuck, I can explain that.
Okay.
Just while Al's doing that, my thoughts on tenons and mortises. I always finish off the bottom of a bowl anyway.
Okay.
Sorry, I thought I'd muted. I always finish off the bottom of a bowl anyway, whether it's got a tenon or a mortise. I prefer tenons on most things, and I make the tenon 1/3 the size of the outside diameter of the bowl. So, failing that, I'll quite often use the old-fashioned method of a faceplate on the face of it, because some of the stuff we turn is fairly big. And then I'll glue a false bottom onto it and put a faceplate back into that. And then take the faceplate off, take the glue block off after I've finished.
Okay.
So that way I can get an even thickness all the way down right through the base and everything else, so as I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
Whereas with a mortise, I've found that most people that make funnels use a mortise, and they forget about the thickness that the mortise is into the base of the timber, and they've got no guide there to work to, and suddenly they've got a hole in the middle that they've got to block up. And in that case, a mortise is very handy, because you can turn a block of wood exactly the same size as a mortise and do it again.
Right, that's true. The block that I showed during show and tell on Sunday was a bowl that I used. I started out with a tenon, and the tenon broke off, and it was a very soft piece of wood. It was heavily spalted and abrasive, and I ended up using a glue block to finish it. And I'll tell you what, that's the first time I used a glue block, and I was just amazed. And,
look, I've used glue. Sorry, Jeff. I've used glue blocks for years. Before that, I used to use jam chucks, because I've been doing it that long. Chucks weren't even invented. So jam chucks are a good way of holding things as well. But no, glue blocks are very, very handy.
Yeah.
What's a glue block?
A glue block is where you get a bit of timber like this, and you get another bit of timber, and you glue it in there like that, and your chuck and everything goes onto that, or your faceplate goes onto that.
Yeah.
And you can actually, on some bigger pieces, it's an advantage, because you can do the inside and the outside all at the same time. Well, not at the same time, but without moving the bowl at all on the chuck or on the lathe. You just turn the whole thing, turn all the outside, turn the inside, and away you go.
Yeah. This is the glue block I used to finish that spalted ball. And it was just, a lot of times when I have something like this left, I throw it in a little bin. And, it's still got the glue on it. And so, yeah, I glued that on, centered everything up, glued it on, then put it into my chuck. And it was wonderful. I mean, Lyle Jamison, who's kind of become a friend of mine, and, I learned a lot of bowl turning from his video that he did. Boy, he just curses chucks. He said this is the only.
Yeah, I know. He actually prefers not to use any chucks at all.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, just watch out. Just watch it. You've got to be careful with hot melt glue. Normally, my glue blocks I put on with PVA, and then I put them aside overnight or whatever. I'll do 10 or 20 at a time. Put them aside on a shelf so the glue can dry properly. If you're using hot melt glue, you've got to virtually do it within 1 or 2 days of doing it, because the glue becomes fragile, and the glue block will part company with the bowl.
Yeah.
With hot melt glue. So
yeah, I usually let it set for about an hour, and then I go into it. And the other thing I do, some people will put the block on and they'll do the glue just on the outside.
Yeah.
I do the glue on the inside with the ridge.
Yep.
In place and centered, and then I go along the outside and put it on.
Yeah, that's the way I do it too. But you leave a little gap in the circle around the inside so that air can get out.
Okay.
Like if you're gluing up, I'll just use this again. If you're gluing up around there, if you put a full circle around it, sometimes it acts like a little pad, and it just keeps it off its spacer. But if you leave a little gap in the you do your glue around here and then squash it in, it allows the air to get out through that corner there.
Oh, okay. I'll keep that in mind next time I use this, because I'll be probably using it this week.
And then put your bead around the outside of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I do exactly what you guys do. If I've got waste wood on a piece of wood on a tenon after I parted something off, I just true up the surface and throw it in a box and reuse it as a glue block.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
it's actually a good idea. Like this is a plate naturally, where you've got something that's only 20 mil thick. Sorry, 3/4 of an inch for you lot. 20 mil thick. It's you get the full use of the whole timber. You don't have to put a mortise or anything into it. And we had to do a whole series of plates for a restaurant, and we just set the whole lot up on glue blocks and just went for it. And that way, the plate was the full thickness and all the way through. So,
yeah.
That's a great way to avoid wasting timber on things like tenons and recesses.
Yeah. You know, it's funny.
Sorry, Alfred.
Yes.
Alfred's waiting in the wings there. I can see him.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
You're right.
It's
the funny
interesting.
thing with the whole metric thing is, you know, back in the 70s, our president then, Jimmy Carter, tried to get America converted over to a metric, and he was met with massive resistance, including me. But now that I'm wood turning, I've got metric rulers, you know, and you know, I never thought I'd see the day that I was even talking metric, but I'm using it. And it's not hard. It really isn't.
Well, metric is so easy because everything is 10 or 100.
Yeah.
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 You know, I mean, there is no, you know, I come from Europe and we used to have, you know, pound, shillings and pence, and 12 pence make a shilling, and, you know, all that. And when we went to the dollars, everything is 10 cents, 20 cents, everything is by a 10 and 100. So it's so easy, even in decimal, you know, everything is so much easier than a fraction.
Yeah.
Well, you tried to, it's much easier to divide 1240 in 2 or into 3 or 4 or 5 than it is to get 4 foot 1 3/8 and divide that by half.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you know, my neighbor was over yesterday. He's coming over this afternoon to finish a project, but we were laying boards out. You know, we have a piece of board that's so many feet or so many inches, and we got to get a number of boards out of it to glue up to make a certain length. And so we're designing this, and you know, both of us were tired. We never should have started this project last night. We were both tired. So we're laying this thing out, and we've got 13 and 11/16 inches and stuff like that. And, you know, our first attempt, you know, we end up with needing 5 more inches than what we had. So we started redoing everything. And I said, why don't we do metric? You go, I don't want to do metric. He said, that sucks. No. Get my ruler out here. I have a 24-inch metric. You know, and we started laying out with that, and things started coming. It just made it a lot easier to do the multiplication, because he's trying to convert fraction into decimals on his calculator and doing all that. And I says, why are we doing that?
You know what, Jeffrey, that is the same like what we were just talking about, glue blocks or tenons and mortises. A lot of people don't use glue blocks because they're afraid. It's gonna fly off, it's gonna come apart, it's gonna hurt me, I don't know what I'm really doing. But once you start it and once you do it, you say, what the hell have I been waiting for? This is so much easier and so quicker. And, you know, I can take it off whenever I want. And the same with metric and, you know, English. It's
and
so much.
That's been me my whole life. Why in the hell didn't I do that sooner?
Yes.
You know, when metric came
it's
by.
Like me, wood turning. Why didn't I start this, you know, 40 years ago?
You know, if I would have kept, you know, I never did turning in shop class. But if I would have kept with woodworking, I probably would have made that my career as opposed to computers.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm using metric a lot more, you know, and then the other thing too was when I was in high school, they really wanted me to take a geometry class. I'm not planning on being a mechanical engineer. Why do I want to have geometry? I'm going to be in electrical. I'm going to be in computers and stuff. And I thought, so now I'm starting segmenting, and I'm taking little high school geometry classes online.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I tell you what, I found geometry and algebra very helped me a lot, you know, because when I was doing tool and die, it helped me a lot in doing the calculations, fractions for angles and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know, you never know when you're going to need it, but
yeah.
down the line somewhere you're going to need it.
You know, I was watching
a lot of
the other day, and they were talking about that, and the kid was going, "I'm never ever going to use this in my life." And his dad says, "That's right, but you got to learn it anyways." And,
yeah.
You know, and I'm sitting there going, "No, you will use it at some point in your life. It may be 60 years from now."
You know? I build a lot of jigs in my shop because I have limited space, so I'm always jigging something in arms. Things are on arms, and you know, I use geometry and algebra a lot in the shop. I mean, and I don't even do segmenting, so.
Well, you know, when I studied electrical engineering in college, you know, that was all algebra and trigonometry.
Exactly.
You know, and I was really good at it, but it's amazing because I just, and one of my very first jobs was as an electrical engineer, and I never used any of it because we had these books. And I worked mostly with motors and stuff like that. So you looked up the motor size, you followed this here, you followed that there, and they gave you exactly what you needed to know. So I never used the formulas. So they've been lost over the years. And back in 2000, I took the builder's test to get my builder's license. And one of the questions on there, and luckily a friend of mine told me about it who's a builder, there's a test on there for determine the ratio of your roof pitch. So this length, they give you this length, and you had to determine what this length was, and that's algebra. And oh my God! So I got online and, you know, and
basic trig, man, basic trig.
Yeah, it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared.
Yeah.
Pythagorean's theorem.
Yeah, exactly. So now I'm playing within the spring. I'm building new stairs for my basement here because the stairs are coming apart. They weren't built right in the first place, and you know, just there's that involved with the stringers, figuring out the right length of the stringers. And so
there's a science to building stairs too.
Yes, there is. You know, I built little 2 and 3 step things, which is, you know, you can almost just wing that by looking at things and taking a few measurements. But when you got 12 steps, you know, and you want a certain angle, there's a science.
There's a formula for that. I'm not exactly sure, but it's rise over something else. How to figure the proportion of one to the other one.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I found that I'm using the metric a lot more in the last year, just because I don't know, a good 40% of my contacts are now overseas with these English groups and guys like you, Ian, and so on. So it's like people are talking metric, and I'm like, all right, what is that in the measurements I'm familiar with?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you've been to Rockler lately, but Rockler's big Nova display for all their chucks and chuck jaws. For the longest time was, 50 millimeter, 60, 80 millimeter and stuff like that. And I was there yesterday and I noticed just underneath those measurements, and they now have it in inches.
Well, their biggest market is America, that's why.
Yeah. Because I was looking at, I wanted to play around with a faceplate ring just for the heck of it. And so I measured out the jaws on my chuck, and it came out to be 60 millimeter, and but everything there was 50 and 80. So, but it struck me as funny. That was the first time I noticed that they had inches underneath of it. So,
I have a question or a request.
Okay.
Do you guys remember about a year and a half ago when I think it was in May, a year and a half, we got those vacuum chucks. We did a big order and everybody got them, and then a few of the guys went downstairs and did demos so that everybody would know how to use them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I was never able to make that demo. I was traveling a lot for work at the time, and obviously things have changed now. But I've still not used my vacuum chuck because I don't know how to use it properly and safely. And I'm wondering if somebody would be willing to set up some time on a separate meeting to maybe do a demo for me so I could start using my equipment.
Stephanie, if you go to his website, he's got various YouTube videos, and
he does.
He explains it really, really well.
Okay.
How to set it up, and one thing I tell you, he does not have those vacuum chucks anymore, pumps. He's got something different now. They're a lot more expensive. But do you have the chuck or you just bought the pump?
I think I got everything. I still have it in the box. I haven't even opened it, but I think I bought all of it.
Oh,
that must mean.
Yeah, I know he was offering a special when he came to the club where you could get the chuck also at a reduced price.
Yep.
Or at least the parts to build your own chuck.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, that's what it was. It was the parts to build your own chuck. Because I ended up making mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very helpful. I use it a lot. You have to be kind of careful with the surface area because you can implode. If you don't watch it, you can implode something in there.
Well, that sounds exciting.
Yeah.
Well, I've sucked the bottom out of 2 bowls, so I hear you, Al.
Yeah. Vacuum chucks aren't good for real.
Well, it works with surface area, the vacuum, and it's not how much pressure there is. It's pressure per square inch. So if you have an 8-inch diameter, it's gonna suck square inch all over all that surface area. It's gonna suck a lot more. So if you have a thin-walled bowl or a platter, and you're taking something off the bottom, you got to be careful. But there is a valve. You can set it up so you can reduce the pressure, the vacuum on it.
Okay.
So, you can comfortably do it.
Okay. Thank you.
And Stephanie, I would be more than happy to help you with that too.
I appreciate that. I'll
got that
watch the
original
videos.
system set up here in my shop.
Yeah,
Okay.
One of the things, I don't know if he's still doing the lamp rod thing, the frugal vacuum chuck guy, but
No, he's using a nylon tube now.
Okay, well, it still goes through the spindle, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, one of the things that I have and that Alfred has, I know because he made mine, is an insert that goes into the spindle in place of that whole connection through the spindle.
Yeah.
Alfred probably has his handy. I don't. I have pictures on my Facebook, but it was made out of. You could make it out of wood. You can make it out of aluminum. Ours is out of that plastic stuff. Melamine, is that the stuff? Whatever that white plastic was that we had.
It's corian. No, it's not corian. Corian is a bit too brittle for that.
Okay.
Because
you
you have to cut
flexible.
2 O-rings. It's UHMWE, which is ultra high molecular poly something else.
You got a picture? Can you show yours real quick, Alfred?
Yeah, let me see if I can take my laptop over there. Give me a second. Keep talking, guys.
Yeah, because you have to make a vacuum adapter for the other side of your headstock so it spins.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Is this instead of the lamp rod that goes through the spindle from the outside?
Yep.
It's an insert that goes into the spindle, and it's got a bearing on it, and so the vacuum goes through your spindle, and you don't have to connect things up.
Yeah,
so
and that's something that I'm working on myself.
Yeah, it's a lot more freeing because then you can make, as long as you've got a hole in it and something that screws onto your spindle. You can make vacuum chucks of any shape and size for whatever you need. I've got like 10 of them now, so including a big flat one and a little tiny one.
I'm working on a vacuum chuck right now.
Okay, guys, this is it. This is what I did. There is 2 bearings in here, and then there is a washer, a fender washer, which is actually pushing on the inner ring of the bearing, so we won't hold it. And this goes into the spindle of your lathe, and there's 2 washers here, O-rings, and there is a hole. And you see that hole, how small it is? That will still implode because it doesn't work on the diameter of the hole, but on the surface area. So through that, you're gonna get all the vacuum just through that hole. And that goes in the back. I'll put it in, then I can show you. It goes back there. I don't know. Can you see it?
Down.
Yeah.
Down a bit. Down a bit.
A little lower, Howard. There you go.
Right, that's it.
Yeah. So it goes in there. And why is the lathe turning? You see it because of the bearings. There's 2 bearings in here. This is stationary. By the way, you can buy these if you want. They have them for sale, but I just opted to make mine.
Yeah, they're about 80 bucks. So
I don't think that they're making them. Don Doyle was vending them. Mr. Rubber Chucky was vending them for a while, but I don't think they're making them anymore.
It might be. No, I'm talking. It's not Rubber Chucky where I saw them.
It was a robust product. It was a robust product.
And One Way both made them.
Yeah.
JT Tools actually was making them.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're making them anymore.
JT Tools, the guy that actually made them, and that actually died 6 months ago. But here's what one looks like.
Can we highlight him? Keep up there. We're trying to find you.
I have a commercial one that I bought because I found it online. I think it was on eBay, and I got it for like 40 bucks.
Okay. Okay, we got you.
That's what I have.
You're spotlighted, guy.
Yeah, the JT Tools, basically what it is the one end has the 2 O-rings, and then he's got the sealed bearings inside. But yeah, he passed away about 6 months ago because he'd supply them for any lathe. And then he was also supplying them for Robust. But then since he passed away, Robust actually manufactures their own. But, they're sized just for the Robust lathe. But I mean, with the bearing and that, and the nipple, this is where it's going in, and then with the O-rings, but, you could manufacture your own.
Have a website that explain the science of vacuuming too?
He used to have he had a lot of stuff on his site, but I don't even know if his site's even up anymore, so.
Right.
Yeah, I guess somebody else just took over that, and they're starting to build their inventory again. So I don't know how far they gotten though.
Now, Alfred, your vacuum adapter, is the bearing glued in?
The outside of the bearing is glued in. However, the fender washer, the second bearing is protruding out of the back, and the fender washer is pressing on the outside of the outside ring of the bearing to hold everything together.
Okay. The reason I ask that is some of those plastics you can't glue.
You cannot glue plastic. No, there's no way you can glue that.
Yeah.
But that's why I put the fender wash, the bearing a bit protruding out, so the pressure is one bearing against the other bearing, and the fender washer is pressing all of them in the bottom.
Okay.
You can melt that plastic together though, instead of gluing it.
What's that?
There are ways to bond the plastics, the UHMW, but I think you can even melt it together, couldn't you?
Yeah,
or do they have to come apart?
The bearings are metal though.
Bearings are metal though, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, but using a lamp rod, you can do that too. And I know that Phil uses like a bungee, some kind of a rubber in the back so it doesn't bang around into the spindle. Phil, you there?
Yeah. I mean, I have one of the commercial chucks that has the rod on the back, and it's got the aluminum head on it. And I like that one because it's a little more robust than the ones you make, that of the PVC. But I just took a piece of PVC tubing that was the right size to go over the what would be the lamp rod, and I put it in there right where it hits the hand wheel, and so if it bounces around, it's hitting the rubber instead of hitting the metal.
That's a good idea.
You don't get the noise and the wear and stuff.
Yeah, because those lamp rods can get real noisy.
Yeah, they bounce all over the place, and this one did too. But by putting that piece of tubing on there, I have no problem with it at all. I have both. I have the one with the rod through it, and then I also have the connector at the end. I found that later on, and so I've made my own. Like Alfred's about to show us all his, but
yeah, like this one.
I have one looks just like that.
Yeah, yeah. So you can. While using this system, you don't need the lamp rod going through the spindle, so you don't have any clanking. This one I was a bit too elaborate. What I did is I did a washer in here so as to make sure I stop all the air leaks. but believe me, the pump is so powerful that it overcomes that. So this is an 1.25 inch, and it just spins on the spindle, and you have the adapter, and there's a hole through the spindle. So then there is the adapter in the back, and that's all you need. This is that decking that we use, and
that you can glue.
Pardon?
That does glue. I use Gorilla Glue to glue 2 pieces of that together to get my thickness.
That's what I did, and then I also, for insurance, I screwed it together. You know, after that. Then I cut a groove in here. It's a press fit, but I left a bit of a gap on the inside one. I left the outside a true fit, but the inside I left a bit of a gap, so this does not move sideways. But I left a bit enough so that I can put my epoxy in there. Okay. And so that is one. You can even get them smaller. You know, I use this a lot if I want to drill holes into a ball. You know, if you make a sphere, you want to drill a hole, this is perfect for that. You just put it in there, sug it, and you're right into the middle. So that, or else I just did this one about a month ago for big stuff. I had a really big bladder I wanted to do, and it was too thin in the bottom, so I wanted it to go way in the outside, and then I lowered my vacuum, and it worked fine. Still the same. I used MDF for this. So.
Thank you.
Okay. This is one that I've made for doing medallions. I've been experimenting with this. I'm not happy with it, but it got my thinking on the right track for what I want to do, because making medallions, you know, a lot of people use double-sided tape, and with that, basically you're making a medallion where you're just doing one side, and I want to be able to do both sides. So it's very hard to turn that around on double stick tape, especially if you've got a finish on it, and have it stick really good. And I've had them just fly off the jam chuck. So I've been experimenting with this to see if I can get a better pull on it and a better hold.
How do you hold it?
I have one that size too, and I use it for medallions also. It works.
How am I holding it?
Yes.
You mean
how do you hold the medallion on it?
Well, I got a piece of foam that goes over it. You know,
okay.
the craft foam, and then the medallion, it's held onto it, and I just gently do the curvature.
Okay.
I start out with a 1/4 inch piece with a line that's at the 1/8 inch mark, so I see where the center point is, and I curve that around, and then I turn it around and repeat.
Okay.
The only problem with this is you know, I haven't figured out a way to do, if you want to do offset turning to make the larger hole to put leather through like some people do. Right now I'm using a little pinch clasp that the chain can go through.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, I saw a great idea the other day. Again, the guy's using double stick tape, but he's got a flat piece of dimensionalized lumber, and he's got it marked so that he can start out with a medallion in the center, and then he just moves it over, you know, to the next mark in his chuck, and now he's turning it off to the side a little bit and turning the hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, screw chuck's good for doing that too. Just put 2 holes in a block of wood.
Exactly.
But that bit of, just hold up that rod again, please, Jeff.
Okay.
The MDF there. If you use MDF on that wooden piece there, I find that the vacuum actually sucks through that and can reduce your vacuum pressure if you're not careful. So what we've had to do with all of ours is actually coat them in CA glue, and to stop the air from being drawn through the timber itself.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people have done that.
That's exactly what I did with this one.
I do the same thing. I've had the same problem.
Yeah, this is 2 pieces of MDF. They're glued together, and they're screwed on the inside too, you know, for insurance.
Yeah.
But before I even put it together, I coated it with polyurethane. I actually saturated it in polyurethane, and if you put water on top, it just stays on top. That's how I know.
Yeah. Yeah, I took a class many years ago with Ernie Conover. It was a bowl turning class, and he makes his own vacuum chucks, and they're all made out of wood. There's no PVC. He doesn't like PVC vacuum chucks.
Yes.
And he That's the one thing he said is the whole chuck itself has multiple coats of varnish on it, inside and out.
Hey,
that's
Jeff.
that's exactly what I do too, is poly.
Yeah.
All over, inside and outside.
Yep.
On that person that was talking about the tenon that broke off.
Yes.
Okay. I answered his question, and this was my thought about what might have happened to him. A lot of us do a square when we have the tenon here. Whether it's dovetail or not, this is a stronghold, so it's straight. It's got the teeth on it. A lot of us do the straight and then a straight. So all the pressure is right in this corner here, which is the weakest part of the tenon. Any corner that's sharp is the weakest part. If there was a radius, it would be okay. It's strong, but with a sharp corner is the weakest part of anything, whether it's metal, wood, or whatever. So what I do is I want to make sure that I am registering on the outside right here. So when I do the bottom of my, whatever it is, bowl platter, I don't make it straight. I make it a bit of an angle, so it will not be touching on the inside, but it's only touching on the outside. So the inside here is holding it there in the middle, but the surface area has increased up to the outside, where now you're pushing against the bottom of the bowl or platter, not right into the corner. And that's where a lot of us make that mistake, and that's why it breaks.
Yeah.
So when I told him, when you put it on, you should not see any daylight here.
Right.
You should be touching right on the outside.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I've seen a lot of people do that, where they think that the tenon's got to be bottomed out. And
oh yeah, gosh, that's another one.
Actually sticking up from the chuck jaws, 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a nightmare just waiting to happen.
Yeah. Well, if you really want to sit down and work it out, that little flat bit on the top of the jaws there constitutes 40% of its holding power.
Exactly. Right here.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because it's got to climb out over the top of that to get off.
Exactly.
And you know, another thing too, and I don't, this wasn't the case with this gentleman, because he had a fairly small bowl that he was making.
Yeah.
But I think part of his problem, if he was heavy-handed, it was quite long too. So there's that, you know, if he's heavy-handed and he's pushing down on the side of that, you know, he's going to snap it off. But I also see people who are turning 14 and 15, 16-inch bowls, and they got a standard 50-millimeter tenon on it.
I've been guilty of doing that, but
so have I, and you know, but that presents a problem too, because now you've got all that pressure on the outside of the bowl.
It all boils down to what we were taught at school about physics that never took any notice of, called leverage.
Yeah. You had physics?
Yeah.
Class I avoided.
When you sit down and boil it all down, wood turning is all leverage. You're using a leverage. You've got fulcrums. You've got load. You've got energy and force.
Yeah.
And that's what wood turning is. It's all leverage.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's another class I got to take.
Yeah.
Or no, you just told me, so I don't have to. Thank you.
Well, hopefully that helps him out. You know, I know he's a newer, but that bowl, segmented bowl, that's gonna look nice actually when he is finished with it.
Yeah,
I like what he's doing there.
Yeah. Did he? I don't remember. Did he say in there what kind of wood he was using for his segmenting?
I don't think he mentioned that. No.
Yeah, some of it looks like red oak. Which,
yeah, it does.
You know, in my experimental stuff and learning it, I did a lot of red oak that I just got from Lowe's, and it makes a beautiful bowl. I did a whole bowl with red oak with a walnut bottom on it, and it was only about 2 inches tall. It wasn't very big at all. Well, 3 inches tall. It wasn't very big at all, but it just came out gorgeous. And I showed it to a friend of mine, and I didn't even have it up for sale. And he goes, "You take 150 for it?" What? Yeah. So
You were so fast in packing that you didn't even know.
I know. So then you're driving home going, why didn't I say $200?
Yeah.
I had 90 hours in this. No.
No.
Hey, something I want to do real quick. We have a couple guys online here. As we know, with our Facebook challenge and our President's Challenge, you got to post a picture on our Facebook page. And a lot of people have problems figuring that out because when they get into Facebook, they see their page. And they don't understand how to get to the Detroit Area Woodturners page. So I wanted to take a couple minutes and do that both on my PC, and I got a tablet set up here that mimics a phone. So if you guys don't mind, for the few that are having problems with that, I want to go through that real quick. So I'm going to share my screen. So you guys, I'm not going to mention names, pay attention. Okay, so let's get, this is actually, yeah, this is Firefox, which is what I use. So now I've been to it, so it always comes up. So you're going to get into your Facebook page. Okay, and you're always going to get to your page. Now down here are shortcuts, and that populates the ones you've been to the most. Now you see, I go to Detroit Area Woodturners every single day. So if you don't see that there, I've got to do some moving of stuff here. Up here, and this is on a PC, by the way, this is not a phone or a tablet. Up here you have the search bar, and you can just go up in there, put your cursor in there, and type in DET, Detroit Area Woodturners, and it comes up in the list. And you hit enter, and boom, there you are. And because I've been to it before, okay, so this is a good example. This is what you'll find. You have this, so you just double click on that. And now you're in the Detroit Area Woodturners Facebook page. And there's the gentleman we were talking about. That's the bull. Yeah. So anyways, so when you want to post something out here, you got this little area here called create a public post. And that's where you can, if you just want to post a question or a comment or something like that, nothing political, you would just type it in there. And then if you wanted to put a picture in, you just go down here, click on that image. Let's see. I should still have the President's Challenge stuff up here. There we go. Boom, boom. Click the image you want to put in there. Hit open, and it's added in. And then you just hit post. And I'm not going to do the post because we're live. So those of you who had that problem, do you understand that with a PC? Well, I gotta hope you do. It's really, really easy. Any questions on that part? Okay. Let us go over then.
And Jeff, before you leave,
okay,
point out where you find the make a post, because yeah, you blew through that part, and that's the part I think people are having the problem with.
Okay, we're on the home page of the Detroit Area Woodturners right now. And you have the header. You have these different rooms or tabs you can go into. And right below that, it says create a public post.
Okay.
Everybody see that? Okay?
It's the step before that that I think is confusing. I didn't realize I've been getting there a different way, but when you search for Detroit Area Woodturners, it doesn't take you to this home page. It takes you somewhere else, and then you double clicked on something to get
what it did. It took us. Let's see if I can go back. See if I can short circuit. Okay.
Yeah, it takes you there like that.
It took me there, and you'll see the Detroit Area Woodturners. Now, this surprised me because I go to Woodturners so much that it usually just takes me right to the page. But I think it did this because I actually searched on it where I've been using my shortcut. So,
right. When I search on it, that's what happens. I get to some spot and the thing is not there to do the posting. The way I get there is I just pick up one of my notifications and click on that and it takes me to the page. I mean, that's
okay,
another way to get
you
there.
can do that too. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's the confusing part is because quite often I'll get to that spot and there's no place to do the posting.
Well, and that's one of the problems with Facebook is, you know, it doesn't always operate the same all the time.
Yeah.
And that can be maddening. So that's the one thing that I can say is if you're not into Detroit Area Woodturners homepage, look for this.
Yeah.
Or as Chuck said, I'm not sorry, Phil, you can go up to your notifications and I got something in the way here. Let me get it out of the way. You got, you look for something, something that is, there it is. That's in the Detroit Area Woodturners. Click on that. And that will take you over to the Detroit Area Woodturners, and it'll take you to that post, and then you can just go up.
Scroll up, yeah.
So, any other questions on that?
The Zoom cameras up the side, they're actually hiding where the notifications are on that page too.
Yeah.
For those that don't know where it is.
So you're actually seeing the different people here. Like
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Just shrink the page a little bit.
So that's the notifications. So if you've got any notifications of any post from any of your friends or from any members of the club that you're, you'll see a number up there for the number of posts. And in this case, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I got four posts to look at. And the reason it's not showing me that now is because I've already been to notifications. But when I first went in there, it said I had 4.
Yep.
So, any other questions about that?
Yeah, I'd also mention that if you've got your own Facebook page, don't share from your home page to the Detroit Woodturners because only the people that you've got as friends can see it.
That's right.
Yeah. Yep.
So it has to be posted into that page direct.
Right.
That's an excellent point. One of the things you can do is make a post on the Detroit Area Woodturners and then share it from there to your own homepage.
There you can do that too, yeah.
Yeah. So
I think that's what I did with my with my mug.
I just post them twice.
Yeah. So anybody got any questions about any other questions about the PC access to Facebook? Okay, let me get out of this and I'm going to go over to my tablet, and my tablet, there I am. Let me bring this down. This will make it a lot easier. So my tablet is the same as it's an iPad, so it's the same as my iPhone. But I think the apps for Android work the same way as iPhone. So when you tap the screen, let's see here. So I'm in Spotlight here.
Yeah, right now you're sharing your picture and not your screen.
Yeah, so I have got to share screen. I've not done this on my tablet before. I don't know if that's right or not.
There it goes.
Okay. Yeah, something's not right here. That's not what I wanted. Let me get out of this. Okay. Share screen, photos. This is not doing what it's done before.
Looks like you're recording.
Yeah, it's a broadcast. So it's not actually letting me get to my home screen.
Interesting.
Oh, there we go. I just had to tap my screen. But it's just giving me my Zoom screen.
You got to pick the right screen to share, I think.
I have to hit what?
You have to pick the right window to share.
Stop. Well, this is embarrassing. Here I'm supposed to be the expert.
Yeah, you're the IT guy.
I know. Well, retired IT guy. Let me go here. I got screen, photos, iCloud, Dropbox.
Let's try something, Jeff.
Okay.
Let me remove the spotlight. Bring up on your screen what you want to show.
Okay. Well, I'm not spotlighted anymore.
All right, now you're spotlighted. Try it again.
Okay. Remove spotlight. Just okay. So
now you got to share screen.
So do you see at the top my share screen stuff?
No,
okay.
What we see is just you.
Oh, okay. Well, so I get a list when I hit share screen.
Yeah.
And the list is screen, photos, iCloud Drive, Dropbox, Microsoft One, and so on.
You should be able to pick the window you want to share.
You only got one window if it's your screen, though.
Yeah, and see, I wanted to get the home screen so I could just pull up my Facebook app.
Well, I don't think you're sharing your screen right now because you haven't locked the rest of us out.
Yeah.
So you got to click the share screen and then pick the window.
But that's just it. It's not giving me the ability to pick the window, the desktop, the screen.
When you do share screen, it pulls up your screen. Then you got to minimize Zoom and maximize the web browser.
Usually it just gives me a window of windows to pick, and I can just pick a window.
It does that on the PC. I don't know if it does that on the phone.
Well, he said he was on a tablet though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it an Apple-based tablet or is it a Microsoft?
Yes, it's an iPad.
He's running iOS.
Okay, never mind. You're on your own, dude.
Well, let me try something else here. Let's spotlight my PC image. There we go. I hope everybody can see this okay. So let's see. So everybody can see this okay. Here's my Facebook.
Lift a little higher. There you go.
Okay. So I'm on my Facebook page. Now, I don't know who that was. So anyways, up at the top here, can everybody see the search bar?
Nope.
Patrick.
I don't know who Patrick is. So anyways, got the same search bar up here. Facebook Messenger. So I got the search bar up here just like I had on the PC.
Jeff, I think you're triggering that call by tapping the top of your screen. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways, so can everybody see the search bar?
Yes.
That's just the same as on the PC. You type in Detroit area wood turners, and what will happen is if you've been to it before, it's going to come up with your list once you tap that search bar. So I'm going to go ahead and tap it. There I'm into Detroit area wood turners. And you scroll down and you've got the same thing there. Create a public post. And you just start typing in there. You select the icon for photos if you want to put a photo in. and that takes you to your desktop, or it takes you to your photo app, so you can pick out the photo that you want. Because on a tablet you have, or a phone, you have to take it from your wherever you store your image at, and in the Apple, that's the photo app. So does everybody understand that?
Yes.
I'm sorry I couldn't get a share screen going. I don't know why. Because way back in the beginning of our Zoom meetings, this is all I used, and I actually did that. So something has changed with one of the updates, and I'm going to have to play around with it and figure out what to do about that. You know,
Really, the answer is it's an Apple.
it's an Apple. Yep. They got their own way of doing things. And it's like I used to do with an IT. They would put something out there to fix something, and they break 10 other things, you know. I spent many late nights because of that method. So anyways, that's posting on, that's how to post from a PC or a mobile device to our Facebook page. And if anybody still has confusion, contact me, and we'll figure out a way to go over it. So we've got about 10 minutes left, and we've covered the 3 topics I wanted to cover. And nobody got in a fight about mortise and tenons, and that's good.
It's a science.
Still have 10 minutes to go over that.
Yeah. Everything is. When you get down to it, everything is a science.
Yeah. When I started turning, it was all metric because I learned from my grandfather, and he, of course, came from Ireland. And
okay.
One thing that would comment when you were saying that we were trying to go metric, that's how I was taught. And my math was metric, and it screwed me up in Detroit public schools.
Yeah. What are you talking about, fraction?
Yes. And I could do it quicker the other way, but they said, well, we don't use it. I brought up, well, then how do you handle dimes, nickels, quarters? I mean, dollars, isn't that metric? Pennies? Yeah. Okay, and then how do you explain what a 2-penny nail is? Mm-hmm. You know, is it size or is that what it costs? That's an expensive nail.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the argument or your comment about being in the 70s, because metric, I remember as a kid growing up that was being forced that we actually do metric, and 90% of what we did during World War II for the airplanes and stuff that we did was metric, because if you had to get parts, screws, bolts, stuff, they were all metric where we were using them.
Okay.
So it was cheaper to use something that you knew could be made there than fly it over.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
But I remember when we were digging the ditch, if you remember, our original ditch, 94, they were at that time still talking about being all metric. And then a neighbor of ours happened to work in Lansing, and they were all upset over it because the cost of changing the speed signs and the road signs for distances outweighed politically, financially, changing. So everything, and of course, every time we go to Canada, which is so common here in Detroit, it's just, you know, over the bridge. And the problems the auto company had was which odometer do you put in, because originally they were all mechanical gears plus the dash. Anybody here remembers having the double speed and metric on your speedometer, but never the odometer, of which that Canada got very mad at that because that had to be changed. But the problem that he had here in the state of Michigan, as other people did, is the cost of changing road signs. And that was done. Wayne State University did a project, so did U of M, calculating what it would be just in Michigan. And it was voted down by all the states because it was too much to change the speed limit signs. That was the only reason. So they agreed that we would stay where we are, but metric was still the official of government. And when I worked for Uncle Sam, it was still there, and we got reminded of it once in a while for stuff. When we had to put stuff out for bid, had to be in both, but metric is what we needed.
Yeah.
But it was the cost of road signs, nothing more.
Okay.
That's why it's on all the packaging today, because it's still there. It is still the quote official.
Well, and if you're one of these people that still does work on your cars, whatever work you can do anymore, you know, everything's metric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hired into Ford Engineering in '85, and that was all 100% metric.
Yeah.
Yep. Nothing.
And actually, I talked about my Craftsman table saw, you know, doing the work on it, lining up the blade and everything. I found out, even though it's made in the USA, and it was made in '86, all the bolts in it are metric. So, and that surprised me. I don't know why, but it did. I would expect that from the Chinese models.
Right.
And that's another project I want to work on this year. Is I want to take off the right wing of my table saw and put a router bed in it. Because I have a router stand out in the garage, getting buried underneath stuff, not getting used. So, yeah, I just don't have room in the shop for it. So I want to put a wing on the table saw and have my router mounted in it.
The flat surface syndrome, I call it.
Yeah. Yeah. The curse of the horizontal.
Yeah, boy, Henry's real good because it's 40 feet long. It's the best workbench I've got.
Yeah, my table saw is my workbench. I use it more as a workbench than I do a table saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife's
Isn't that one of
wife's
Murphy's
the worst
laws?
for that.
Isn't that one of Murphy's laws that the stuff you have expands to fill available space?
Yes. You know, I have so much Murphy's Law in my life, I call it Uncle Murphy.
Well, we've actually got a house for Murphy in our place. He actually lives in our place, and I built him a house. He's there that often, so it sits up on the wall. In fact, if you go to one of my video tubes, I actually showed how to make his house, just for the hell of it.
I was going to say I bought an old Delta Rockwell scroll saw about a week or so ago, and I had separated the saw from the stand. And I just had the stand sitting in the garage. You know, and a scroll saw stand is pretty narrow, but the stand was sitting in there for a day, and my wife had already started putting stuff on it. Just any horizontal surface, like you say.
Yeah.
She was already enjoying it.
I found some magnetic pads online that are really good at protecting the surface of my table saw that I don't use very often anymore, except for piling stuff on. And it keeps it from rusting and scratching and things like that when I put other stuff on it. Like the one thing you don't want to put on top of your saw is a wet blank, because when you come back to your shop the next day, you know, you have a nice round circle on your saw that's pretty rusty.
I did that
totally been there. That's why I keep iron wool handy.
Yeah. Well, I did it not knowingly, because I actually had the saw covered with some paper, you know, just, you know, old drawing paper, and the water soaked through the drawing paper and rusted the entire surface. And, you know, weeks later, when I decided to uncover it to use it for something, the whole thing was rusted, and I had to, you know, resurface the whole thing. So then I went out and bought these magnetic pads, and they keep the water off the surface and keep it rust free when I don't use it for months on end.
That's a good idea. And I thought I saw those somewhere about a year ago too.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw them. It's been more than a year, but I bought one for the saw, and I also bought one for the bandsaw. But I find that I use the bandsaw so often that it's never on the bandsaw.
Yeah.
But they also have things all written all over them, and rulers and angled finders and all kinds of things that you can use for you know, different tasks as you're working. So
yeah,
use it as a layout guide. But.
Hey, Phil?
Yeah?
If you drank alcohol instead of water, it wouldn't rust.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a
When I first started turning bowls, I left a log on my lathe overnight, and yeah, it was nice the next day.
Yeah.
I got a funny story about horizontal surfaces. Actually, an architect friend of mine, his wife collects these glass ornaments, and every windowsill in the house had glass ornaments all the way over it. And man, Matt hated these things because a breath of wind would knock them off or whatever, you know. And anyway, so when he designed his new house, all the windowsills had a 30-degree tilt on them. So that you couldn't sit anything on them at all.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Nearly ended
Really
in
smart.
divorce.
Very smart.
So he had to probably design some built-in cabinets afterwards, though.
Well, and I'd have plenty of storage space for where he wanted them put, but not on the windowsill.
Yes.
Well, listen, everybody, we've reached our allotted time. I want to thank you for joining us today. This was a lot of fun, and I think having a little bit more structure made it a lot more fun too. Although that seems counterintuitive, but next month, instead of a workshop or a Turner's Talk, we're going to have Alan Stratton. So if you are a member, you will be invited to that, and that's our free demo for winning the ornament challenge for having the most club members submit. And
so awesome that we won that, man.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to the demo.
Yeah. And we're still talking in the background about what we want him to do. And it's leaning towards a hollow form because he does a lot of hollow forms that he calls hollow forms the easy way. And that intrigues me. So, but we'll see.
And to be fair, Jeff, watching someone hollow is pretty boring.
Yeah.
So if he brings something more to it than that, then that sounds interesting. But
yeah, I've got to watch the videos, and I've got
creative,
other board members watching videos and stuff. And
yeah, I've been watching. I can't come up with something that is going to be liked by everybody in the club. We have to make sure that both the beginners and the turners with 30 and 35 years of experience will enjoy. So I haven't seen anything yet. I kind of liked his inside out turnings.
That's something that a beginner to intermediate turner can do. So if he's doing, some really good inside out turnings, maybe that would be worth watching.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's because it's not only the turnings, it's how the process. Because most of the turning is, what is it? It's not how you hold a gouge, 45 or whatever. It's how the process of doing it. And the inside out turning, it's more of how you prepare the blanks in the beginning and tape them together or whatever you're going to use to hold them, and then split them, turn them 180 and re-glue them together. I think that would be more appreciated, and I think that the members will get more out of it than if he's just going to get a boring bar in there and just make chips.
Right.
I think that sounds really interesting.
And on the inside out turnings, most of that is Christmas ornaments. Do you think that would be a problem?
No, as long as the process is interesting for people to look at, and and the members are going to get something out of it.
Okay. I'll mention that to the board then.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I know he makes a lot of jigs and stuff too, and I didn't know if that was going to be something that people would be interested in, because the jigs he makes are very specific to him.
Yes. Yeah, he just, in fact, I think today or yesterday, he just put he does his weekly email that he sends out.
Mm-hmm.
I think this week's was on jigs, actually.
Yeah, he was doing an update on his steady rest.
That's what it was. Yes, that's the one he did this week.
Yeah, and it's the oddest steady rest I've ever seen, but it sure works well for him.
Yeah, it does. I personally, I made one out of metal, and I think for hollow forms and stuff where you're gonna get vibration and stuff like that, I think metal is gonna be more sturdy and less forgiving than wood.
Yeah, if you've got the ability to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we know people who can weld and stuff like that. It can be done.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, then. Well, again, thank you for coming today, and we will see you guys next month. So y'all stay safe in turning and every day when you're out there, and take care.
yeah.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye, Robo.
you.
Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Robo.
Good night, or good day, or good tomorrow,
Thanks,
or
it was a
whatever.
good meeting.
Good yesterday, whatever.
Hey, Robo, what time is it there?
About 3:45, I think, or 4 o'clock in the morning.
Tomorrow.
That's tomorrow, right?
That's
Now
right.
that's
Yeah,
dedication.
Monday morning, yeah.
No, it's Sunday morning.
yeah, yeah. It's Sunday morning here now. Yes.
Okay. Well, have a good day.